This is the Catholic Wire.
In the last decades, many Catholics have experienced terrible moral persecution. Their faith, their traditions were taken away from the churches. Many have lived for many years ignorant of the deprivation they suffered. Some are still going through that painful and at once beautiful process of rediscovering the Catholic faith. For the encouragement of those still in that journey, faithful Catholics have shared with us their challenges, trials, and blessings. This is the story of their journey back to the faith. Hello and welcome to Back to the Faith. This is your host, Father Carlos Cepeda, and you are watching the Catholic Wire. Today I'm joined by Father Joseph Pham. I had the honor to be with him in the seminary. Very remarkable story, and I'm very excited to be able to talk to him today. Father Pham, I know that you're very busy, but thank you so much for joining us today.
Yes. Okay. Thank you for allowing me to talk with you today. Yeah. Okay.
One of the most beautiful stories I've ever heard. I was in the seminary probably 2 years before my priesthood, before being ordained, when Father Pham joined us, and I must say that I was very happy to be with him, very edified to see his example. And today I want to ask him if he could tell us a little bit about his story. Father, we want to hear about how is Catholicism in Vietnam, how was being a Catholic there growing up, what brought you to America, all this big journey that you had. So why don't you go ahead and tell us what was it like to be Catholic in Vietnam? What is Catholicism like in Vietnam?
Okay. So let me begin with just a very, very brief history of the Catholicism in Vietnam. So the Catholicism came to my country in the early of 1600s. By the missionary from Spain, Portugal, and France. And most of them are like the Jesuits and the Dominicans missionaries. Yeah. So they came to my country in the early 1600s. Yeah. And immediately, the Catholic faith is its growth is accepted and grows very, very fast in my country. And also the Christian, the early Vietnamese Christian, they had to suffer very a bloody persecution in the 1900s. Yeah. So 100,000 of Catholics were martyrs, and shed their blood for Christ, and for the Catholic faith. So that is the reason why it's very, very clear to me, Tertullians. It says the blood of the martyrs is the seed of the Christians. Mm-hmm. So with so many blood has been shed in the country, so the Catholicism grows very fast.
When you refer to the persecution, are you talking about the communist persecution in Vietnam, or are you talking about?
I think it's the persecution took place in almost like a century, more than a century, from the 1900 until in the late 1800 to 1900, and that's the most bloody persecution. Yeah, but until until the middle of the 20th century, when the communist regime took control of the country, the persecution is not like as bloody as in the past, because the persecution is in the form of like a suppression and restriction. They sometimes or imprisonment of the clergy and the priests and bishop, something like that. So that is why in 1954, when the situation, the political situation in the country, so it caused a wave of migration. The people from Catholic people from the north, they are moving to the south of the country, and most of them are Catholics. And for example, my home parish, the pastor, the priest there, and together with the parishioners, they all together left their home parish in the north behind, and to go to the south. But but not all of them left their home. Like some families, they chose to stay back. So one of the family, like my grandparents, is one of them. I don't know why they chose to stay back. To stay back. Like it's simply didn't to protect the church. Because most of the people left the church, left the parish. Very just a few families they chose to stay back. So at that time, so from that moment in 1954, my home parish become like they call like a priestless priest. Priestless priest parish. There's no pastor, no parish priest in my home parish in 1954. So until I was born.
Would you say that in the south you have a lot of parishes and priests, but in the north there's not a lot of priests?
Right. In the north, but actually, the Catholicism developed and began in the north of the country. It began in the north of the country. It's begun in the north of the country. But in 1994, like millions of people, Catholics, they left the north and moved to the south. So in the north, there were very few Catholic. They chose to stay back. They stay back and they stay back to protect the church, the property, and from there, the Catholic Church in the north is step by step keep developing, and until now, it's very, it's very, very lively, it's like normal, With every,
Sorry, I don't know if I may ask this question, Father, but when do you find out that you want to be a priest? How did that process came? Where you were growing up with your family?
Okay. So that I mentioned when I was born in 1973. At that time, my home parish is still there's no priest. There was no priest in my parish here. So rarely I had chance to see a priest and had chance to attend mass, even like the new mass, because at that time after Vatican II, even the new mass rarely, like just once or twice a year, I have chance to attend mass here, because the priest in the whole my diocese, there's only 2 priests in my diocese. Only 2 priests. Only 2 priests, so they can travel around the diocese with like 395 churches in the diocese.
Wow.
395 churches in my diocese. So the priests, only 2 priests, they had to travel around, in the diocese. So only like fortunately, like one or twice a year, I have chance to attend mass here, and to see the priest saying mass, even the new mass, So let's go back to the question. So until when I had a desire to become a priest at the age of 13, at the age of 13, because right after receiving the confirmation. At that time, I had to travel from my home, Paris, my home village, to the diocese, to the cathedral of the diocese, to be confirmed by the bishop. So during the confirmation ceremony, I don't remember how many, but like about 4,000 or 5,000 young children, because the whole diocese, the children from the whole diocese gathers at the cathedral of the diocese, to be confirmed. So at that time, so after confirmation, so that time at the age of 13, I began to having a desire to become a priest here. So and later on, my parents took me to see the bishop, to see the bishop of the diocese, and to express my desire that I want to become a priest, etc. And the bishop said, you are still very young, 13 years of age, so you keep studying. So after graduation, after high school graduation, if you continue to want to be a priest, so you can be accepted to and prepare for the formation to become a priest. So that is why. So I returning home. So I keep studying the secondary school and the high school. So after high school graduation, time in 1981. In 1981. So I again I went to see the bishop and at that time, in my country, because there's abundance of vocation. So the church in there, the local church, they raise the qualification of the vocation. So they require to be accepted into the seminary, like a high school education, a high school level. It's not enough. You need to have obtain a college education, so that you can be accepted into the seminary. So again, so I had to I keep attend a college education. But as time the bishop, Vatican II bishop, what I see, he encouraged me to study a foreign language. So at that time, most of seminarians are interested in study French. French. They study French. And some of them, including myself, chose to study English.
Okay.
So that's why I knew some English from there. So so I study English as my a college in a college. So after the college graduation, I I returned to the diocese, because they have it's not a minor seminary, but they call a pre seminaries school, something like that. So we will be trained there and prepare for to enter the seminary here. So during the time they call a pre-seminary, you will be taught how to pray, how to meditate here. You will be taught about prayer, meditation, and reading the Bibles and pray the divine office, etc. So after that, after 2 years preparation, you have to take the exam. It's like a entrance test, an entrance test, to
That's just
enter
to
the
get to enter
seminary.
the seminary. Wow.
Yeah, because you have to take the test because of the abundance of vocation, So only the seminary where I study in the capital city in Hanoi, yeah. So it's a diocese, it's a one diocese for the whole archdiocese of Hanoi, the province,
Oh,
the
okay.
province of Hanoi. So it's including 8 dioceses, So the seminarians from 8 dioceses study at one seminary here.
Mm-hmm.
So usually each diocese have a quota assign a number of seminarian to study in the seminary only. Yeah. So it depends on the population of the diocese, the Catholic population of the diocese. The more Catholic population you have, so the more seminarians you will have in a seminary.
Would you say that
Yeah.
now that you've seen, the traditional Catholic Church and when you were there, would you say that the seminary was mostly conservative over there, like it wasn't too modernist, you could say?
Yes, that a program and the way of life is very very traditional. Yeah, very traditional. So to keep go back my my story, when so for example in my diocese in my time we have a 34 34 candidate for seminary. So all 34 candidates we had to take the entrance, the test, the exams. So only the best, the tops, the top of 7, the 7 tops of the candidates will be accepted into the seminary. So 34 candidates, but only 7 will be chosen to
Wow.
study in the seminary. Yeah. So in that time in 1997, so I took the test and I was among one of the 7 young men here who was
When did you
selected and were chosen to study in the seminary here.
when did you get ordained?
So I the seminary formation there 8 years, 8 year formation.
Mm-hmm.
So I entered the seminary in 1998, and I was ordained a novus ordo priest in 2006. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So 8 years of formation. Yeah. I
What
was
brings you
ordained in
to
Vatican II. Mm.
after you get ordained? What is your life like as a priest, and when do you come to the United States? Why do you come to the United States?
So right before the ordination, the Vatican II bishop there, he had the intention he would send me to study abroad. To study abroad, whether in Rome, in France, or in or the United States, or somewhere else to study abroad, to obtain a higher degree in theology. Yeah, because in my country, we cannot obtain the master or PhD degree in sacred science or theology or philosophy, something like that. Yeah. I had to go to study abroad, for higher education. So that is why that bishop he had the intention to send me to study abroad, before the ordination. So
Mm-hmm.
after the ordination, he appointed me as a assistant priest, to a parish in the diocese, But the main duty, my duty is keep studying and prepare to go to study overseas.
Okay.
So, but it was like But before just like 6 months after my ordination, that bishop he passed away. Yeah.
Oh.
And and he died of cancer in United States. Yeah. In a city in Portland in Oregon. Yeah. So after his death, they call like the diocese have an administrator. Yeah. Administrator, like the bishop of other diocese. He was a an administrator of my diocese. Excuse me. And he appointed me to be a pastor of the parish in the diocese. Yeah. So and I became I became a pastor in our parish. Yeah. But anyway,
For how long were you a pastor before you came to the United States?
So I was a pastor for one almost 2 years. Yeah, one a year or like how to say 20 months. Yeah, I was a pastor for 20 months before coming to United States. Yeah.
When you come here, where do you go? Like what? When do you come to the United States, and where do you go? What are you doing when you're coming here?
So when I first came here in 2008, yeah, the summer of 2008. So at that time, I just come to study English. You know, I just come to study English. They call ESL, like English as second language. Yeah.
Okay.
So when I first came here, because I was granted a full scholarship. Yeah, a full scholarship. Yeah. So I came here and I study in the state of Iowa, yeah, at a Divine College seminary. Yeah. It's just the name of the college. It belong to the Society of Divine Word. Yeah, a missionary congregation. Yeah, the Vatican II Church in here. Yeah. So I study there. I study English there at Divine Word College for for 1 year. Yeah, for 1 year. Yeah. And during the time studying there, I need to find to seek for for another scholarship so that I can study theology. Yeah, master of theology. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it was fortunate, yeah, that I can finally can obtain a scholarship from Holy Apostle College and Seminary in the state of Connecticut. Yeah.
Mm.
So I moved there. Yeah. I moved there in 2010. Yeah. I moved there 2010 to study theology at the Holy Apostle College and Seminary, and it is they call it is a very like a conservative seminary in the United States. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So and that was good. That was good to me, like God's providence. So and I studied there, and actually I obtained I graduated and I the program there. Yeah. In
The program
2012. Yeah.
of theology, you mean?
Yeah, theology they call like a dogmatic. Yeah.
Okay.
Dogmatic theology. Yeah. So,
Before we go into my favorite part of your story, Father, which is obviously when you start finding tradition and all those things, I do have to say that there's a very deep interest in the fact that you come from Vietnam, and we have our orders from Archbishop Tuc, and so what did you ever hear about Archbishop Tuc when you were growing up in Vietnam? Did you ever hear anything about him, or not really?
Yeah, so for sure, I when I was in Vietnam, especially in the seminary, yeah, in the seminary during when I was studying there, sometimes they mentioned Bishop Tuc, yeah, in the seminary during like in the class, theology and or the Vatican II, yeah. And sometimes they mention Bishop Tok, yeah. But they just mention and they say Bishop Tok is a like a systematic and heretics because he rejected and he refused to accept the Vatican Second Vatican Councils and so on and so forth. But they didn't say anything why Bishop Tok rejected the Vatican II. And what he rejected, yeah. They didn't say, they just say very in general, like Bishop Tok is a systematic and heretic for his denial of the Vatican councils and disobey the Pope, something like that, yeah. But they didn't mention the reason why Bishop Tok deny Vatican II and what he denies, yeah. So that's very, very general, yeah.
So can you tell us the story of how it is that you start finding tradition? What do you do? Do you research? When do you come to find Bishop Pivaronas? How is that whole process for you?
Yeah, it's a long process because it took me like 4 or 5 years, almost 5 years, before landing on the Materi Seminary in Iowa, in Omaha, Nebraska. But I remember, like I said, during the time I studied at the Holy Apostle College and Seminary in Connecticut, because it is a conservative school, yeah. So that is why the Latin Mass is still offered there once a week, yeah. Once a week in the seminary chapels, yeah. Have a Latin Mass offered once a week, yeah. After the public Mass, yeah. After the public Mass for everyone, for the whole seminary and the faithful living out around there, they have a Latin Mass for a group from they call it St. John, Kansas, seminarians and priests. They are studying there. So it's a group Mass, Latin Mass for their own group, but it was open for anyone who interested in Latin Mass can attend. Yeah. But most of the people, especially the seminary, and most of them after the public Mass, they they enjoy the free time of the Sunday. So almost nobody interested in Latin Mass. Yeah. So one day, I myself, I had to attend. I need to to see what is Latin Mass. So I came. Yeah, I came to attend the Latin Mass and kneeling at the back of the chapel. Yeah. So I just keep watching, keep watching them. Yeah. So I feel very touched and very by the piety of the priests and the servers. Yeah. And also very they say Latin Mass very like piously and reverently. Yeah. So even I at that time I didn't understand anything. Yeah, everything is new to me. Yeah. So but anyway, I can feel like very touched and deeply and something like a sacred. Yeah, yeah, something sacred. I think is different with a new Mass. Yeah. So that my first experience with a Latin Mass. Yeah. So after the Mass, I entered the sacristy and to talk with the priest saying Latin Mass. So I asked him, what Mass was that? This is the first time I experienced this. Yeah. And he said, he replied, this is the Latin Mass. And actually, we call Tridenten Mass. Yeah, Tridenten Mass. Yeah, and our congregation has an endowed from Vatican to keep saying Latin Mass. Yeah. So, so I asked him, can you teach me to to say Latin Mass? He said, yes, you can learn to say Latin Mass, but to teach like a one-on-one is something is not feasible. Yeah, it's something not possible to to train like a one on one. Yeah, so we don't have time to do that. Yeah, and he encouraged me to find a Latin Mass, a training course. Yeah, a training course on Latin Mass to study. So after that, I actually I try to find the a Latin Mass training course to study, and I find they have a course to train, to train Latin Mass for those interested. Uh, the course is offered by the Fraternity of Saint Peter. Yeah, but the diocese is a huge the huge seminary in Denton, like just outside the city of Lincoln, Nebraska. Yeah.
Yeah.
So actually, I went there. Yeah, I went there. I attend a training course. Yeah, it took 10 days. Yeah, 10 days like full time. Yeah, stay there. Yeah, and for 10 days. Yeah, to study a Latin Mass with the American priests coming from like the whole country. Yeah, at that time more than 20 priests. Yeah, we gathered together to study a Latin Mass. Yeah. So I kept searching and studying about the tradition of the church, the Latin Mass, and one thing leads to another. So I found out that Latin Mass is suppressed after the Vatican II, and not only Latin Mass, also together with Latin Mass is a Catholic priesthood. Yeah, it's also changed substantially changed. Yeah. So and step by step I think like both the Latin Mass and and the Catholic priesthood is suppressed. Yeah, suppressed and changed. Yeah, changed like a substantially changed. Yeah. So and one thing, one question came to my mind at that time. Like I became doubtful. Yeah, about my ordination. Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah.
Wow.
So that is why and the doubt and the doubts like it's very certain to me. Yeah, to me it's something. It becomes certain. Yeah, not it's no longer a doubt, but it's certainty. Yeah. So and I stop. Yeah, I stop like saying mass. And and the most important question thing to me at that time, I I need to I need to validate my ordination. Yeah.
I do have to pause here and just recognize here that bravery that you must have had, because when you're researching those things, I think probably other priests in the Novus Ordo have researched these kind of things, and they don't want to look into it because the consequences of finding out that truth are, as you know, dire.
Yeah.
It's a difficult thing.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's very commendable, very praiseworthy, I think, that you were willing to recognize that doubt and willing to pursue truth no matter what the cost or the consequences were. So you even stopped saying mass after that. You had that doubt. That's quite amazing.
Yes. Yeah.
And so what follows from that? How do you come to Omaha?
Yeah, so I kept searching and reading and studying research on the internet. So I read a lot of stuff from different like they call like a traditionalist group in the United States. Yeah. So one day I happened to see the link of the CMIs. Yeah. Up here or on my like a Google search here. So I click on the link CMI here, and it leads to like a CMI website like, and it was amazing. I saw Bishop took pictures here in there yeah. So I say, oh my God, he is here, he's here. I say, oh, he's here yeah. So I saw the picture Bishop took yeah. And I keep reading on like digging into on the website. I found like a like the CMI sisters and with the Saint Michael Academy, the Mater Dei Academy, and the Mater Dei seminaries. Yeah. So I click on the link of Mater Dei seminary. So I saw the name Bishop Pavlinus, yeah, the rector yeah, of the seminary. Yeah. So also I read about him, yeah. So I read about him, and so they're both like a very positive and negative comments so on the internet about him, yeah. But I uh, I didn't care about that, yeah. The only thing I care is to make sure whether he's a true bishop, yeah. That's the most important thing. Yeah. So when I I I found out that there's no doubt he's a true bishop because he's in the bishop took lineage of episcopacy. So I'm very certain that he is a true Catholic bishop. Yeah. So immediately uh, I use the form in there. Yeah, the contact form. Yeah. To contact Bishop. Yeah, and I email him. I very briefly introduce about myself and what I'm seeking for. Yeah, and what I need. Yeah. So and the story began, but no response from him. I had to wait for a few months. Yeah, at that time I was in Chicago. Yeah, but but no response from him and 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 finally I had to take the trip by car, yeah, by car from Chicago to Omaha. Yeah, there's no way to make appointment prior in advance. No way to make appointment because no response. How even email or call in, leaving the message, but no response. So it's no way for you to have appointment with the bishop. So I just taking the trip. I just take the trip heading to Omaha. Yeah, on Sunday. Yeah, I leave the day before on Saturday. Yeah, so that is on Sunday, March at 10 or 8. Yeah, I saw on the schedule. So I think that after the Mass on Sunday, I would have the chance to see him, to meet the bishop. Yeah. But the first trip when I came there, I met Father Father Anthony, yeah, after the mass, yeah, and some of the seminarians also. But I met Father Anthony, yeah, and I spoke with him after the mass, and I asked him to tell to the bishop about me, yeah. And he says, yes, yeah, very. But and after that, like more than 3 weeks later, it's nothing. Yeah, I received nothing, no response. Yeah, so I take the second trip. The second trip to Omaha. Yeah,
I have to say
second
that I
trip,
remember.
the same thing.
I remember that the first time that you came because Father Saunders was.
Yes, Father Saunders. I met him on the first trip. Yeah.
Yeah, he was outside of the church, and then he was talking to you, and then he came to us, and he said, "I just met this priest from the Novo Sordo, and we were talking for a while, and he was to talk to the bishop, and we were all very excited about it." And he said,
Yeah.
he said, he was very cheerful. He said,
Yeah, right. So but the second trip, the same thing happened. The bishop
okay,
was not at home. Yeah, because he was
he
on a
travels.
mission for a confirmation here out of the state. Yeah,
Yeah.
but the second trip, I met Father Magwai. Yeah, the second trip I met Father Magwai is here, and the same thing happens. And finally, I I took the third trip, yeah, to Omaha from Chicago. And again that trip I pray, yeah, as as my habit, while I was driving I pray. And I said I make a bargain or give a condition to God, like God, let me see the bishop today here. If I don't see him today, that's a sign that something wrong with me. So you don't want me to see the bishop. But if my choice, yeah, it's my decision, it's pleasing to you, it's right. Let me see the bishop today, yeah, and this trip, yeah, this time, yeah.
Hmm.
So it was amazing, when I arrived in Omaha, yeah. Right, Omaha, yeah, immediately when I park the car and get out of the car. So immediately from the seminary, the bishop was coming out. And from afar, I saw, oh, this is the bishop, because I saw he's wearing the cassock with the red button and anything. So I see with the crucifix on his chest. I saw, oh, this is the bishop. So, and I approaching him and say hi to him, and he knew me. He said he knew me. He said I knew you. Yeah, I knew you. I heard about you. So give me 5 minutes. I will talk with you. Okay. Yeah. So after that, 5 minutes later, so I had a talk with the bishop, and from that moment, yes, the story kept going and until now, yeah.
Hmm. And I
Mm.
have to say here, this
So it
is,
was very, I think, it was, mm,
no, yeah, it was very providential. And when you joined the seminary, well, you came to the seminary. Obviously, uh, it was more of a crash course, just to Bishop wanted to make sure basically that you knew the same things that we were studying. But I remember, I must say that I was uh, very edified because I'm sure it was hard for you
mm,
being older, having had so
mm,
much experience already. You had been pastor for several years, and having to be
yeah,
in the seminary with all this bunch of younger people. You just some of us,
yeah,
some of the seminarians were 19, 20 years old. I think I was the oldest when you came.
mm,
Me, myself, and Father Lee. Both we were on our
mm,
30s, but most of us were younger, and so you had to be with us. And I'm sure that was it was. I think it was a good proof of humility. I think that was to me, it was quite
mm.
edifying to see you willing to take all those things and take the necessary steps to be eventually ordained in the traditional Catholic rite.
Yeah, so I wrote like I had a blog, a blog
Hmm.
in Vietnamese here to help my fellows Vietnamese people to know what happened to the church here from the Vatican to until now. So I also I posted an article to share the story of my like vocation here
Hmm.
in Omaha, yeah, the time
Hmm.
I studied there, yeah. So I gave a response. Many people, some people, they told the story. They were touched by the story and everything. Yeah. So to be honest, I had to say that when I was there, I was tempted to give up many time, many time.
Hmm.
Yeah. I was tempted like to give up. Yeah. Yeah, because so many things, not among the challenging, but finally, like I I spoke to myself, and I believe that this is like the devil, I believe that the devil tempted me, like to give up, to turn away, to discourage me, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, but when I I believe the devil is tempting me, to give up. So I became more strong,
Yeah. What happens?
because you
Sorry, go ahead.
yeah you you cannot like defeat me. If you tell me to give up, you cannot defeat me. Yeah. I keep my ways. Yeah, keep staying here. Yeah, and study. Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah.
When
Yeah.
you get ordained, I believe you wrote a letter also to the clergy in Vietnam, if I'm not mistaken, to your, brethren clergy in Vietnam and the other priests and the bishop. Did you write a letter to
Yeah.
them, and what was the reaction?
Right. Yeah. I wrote a letter to some like almost 8 years before the ordination. Yeah. Like the purpose is to like to say something, to declare something like about the like what I believe. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now. Yeah. So I publicize the letter to the diocese, and they no one like offer and comment and say or refuse or say anything about that. Yeah. And
No answer.
some of my like some of my friends in the diocese, they simply says what you say, what you declare in the letters was true, was true. But the church has changed already. Yeah. So that belong to the past. Yeah. Your like a
Mm.
position is belong to the past. Yeah. It does not reflect the current positions and of the church. Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The church with the Vatican, the Second Vatican Council, the church like a reform has to make a reform. We we just simply obey the church and yeah, accompany with the church. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but he chose to stay back, to go back to the church of the past. It's his personal decision. We respect him. That's the thing. We respect him. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had a person that came to the church a couple of weeks ago, and
Yeah.
she was telling me about these things. Like she was a Novus Ordo parishioner, and I was telling her, well, some things changed in the church, and they weren't right. Those changes shouldn't have happened. And then she says to me, no, but God can change. And I'm like, no, God doesn't change. And she says, no, yeah, we can change God. And I'm like, no, no, we have to adapt to
Yes.
God.
Yeah.
God is eternal. God's not going to change. And that's the main problem, that in their changes, in the changes of the new church, they act as if God has changed, like if God had changed his commandments, his sacraments, all those things. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's not just adaptation to
Yeah.
the world, right? It's more like
Yeah.
the
Mm.
church giving up and giving into the
Mm.
spirit of the world, right?
Yeah. Right. So for the like for like the Vatican II clergy, yeah, Vatican II clergy. Uh, I am myself. I want to talk and to dialogue with them like in in the matter of like a theology. Yeah, that's the
Mm-hmm.
most important thing. Theology. Yeah, but
Yeah.
for the simple minded Catholic, I I used to talk with them about the practice, the practices, The practice, you practice that practice is not Catholic here. For example, I talk about the way of the Vatican II and the new church. You practice the fast and abstinence, the practice like the barrier practice, with the use of like cremations and everything. I just talk about the practice, So you practice differently with the church. You believe differently, because what we do reflects what we believe, So you do differently, you believe differently. That's the thing. So and the faithful Catholic, it's easier for them to grasp the ideas, Just for example, like about the practice of fast. Once I talk to a person, now they became a significantist here. I say, who's the founder of our religions? I ask them, who's the founder of the Catholicism? Jesus Christ, Jesus Christ, the founder of Catholicism, And how many days he fasted? He fasted 40 days, 40 days, 40 consecutive days in fasts, So that's why the followers of Christ, should fast 40 days, That's a simple reason, and the church always practiced like that from the time of the apostle. So
That's
now you say you are Catholic, right? The Vatican II. You say you are Catholic, right? But how many days of fast you have each year? You are required to fast only 2 days, and you still call the season of Lent. You call the season of Lent, but you fast only 2 days, and you call this the season of Lent. So it is crazy, It's crazy. It's irrational, You cannot say that because you fast only 2 days, and you say the season of Lent. That's a contradictory. That's not the way the church practices, And they feel immediately, they feel something like something strange, something unusual, So I asked him, well, can you look at other religions, like the Buddhism and the Islamism, the Muslim, Can you say even if they don't change, they don't change, they never change their way of life, How can you tell to them, to a Muslim now, you don't have to keep the whole month of Ramadan, In the modern time, you need to keep 2 days, It's okay, You don't need to keep the whole month of fast in the month of Ramadan, So no Muslim, they can accept that, They can accept that reform, And also the Buddhist monk, no one they can change their way of life. They had to be very faithfully to keep. So that thing I want to talk with the people now about the practices.
That's a good point. Father, I'd like to ask you 3 questions that I always ask to the people that come. The first one is, what is the greatest blessing that you have had in all this journey to discover, the traditional Catholic faith? The greatest blessing, the most difficult part of the whole process, what was the most difficult thing for you? And the third one is, what words would you say to those that are listening, the young generations, but also in your case, what words would you like to say to Vietnamese people out there, especially the people back home? So the first question, what would be the greatest blessing, you think, the most beautiful thing about finding the Catholic faith?
So,
most beautiful
like
moment,
the greatest blessing to me, it's very, I think it's very something is like just being a priest, being a true priest, the priesthood, the Catholic priesthood, just being a Catholic priest, the most the greatest blessing to me, That a thing, and like just just read what the church and the saints talks about the greatness of the priesthood. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's nothing can compare to like the priestess more than the priesthood. Yeah. So just being a priest. Yeah. Being
That
a
is a
priest
hard one
is
too.
like a priesthood. It is the greatest blessing to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is simple thing. And so that is why the most challenging to me is uh, to follow there, to be faithfully and persevering in to follow and to pursue priestly vocation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
What do you
that's
think
a
is
very challenging. So yeah,
well? So that would be what do you think is the hardest thing on all this process? What was the most difficult thing that you had to deal with?
like for the difficulties like come from like from external, internal, yeah, subjective and objective. But I think it like to overcome like myself, yeah. That's the most difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Because manage like a difficulty and challenges coming from outside, yeah. But for my own person, yeah, it's something it's very, very difficult. Yeah. So I think like to overcome the tendency and the toxic one to give up. Yeah. To give up everything. Yeah. To go back to the Vatican to church. I can have a maybe like as a people like a very very great career, yeah, and a very great job in the Vatican to church.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like with what I'm having now, especially in the time in Omaha, in Omaha. Some of Vatican too, like my friends and clergy, they say, you are leaving the church. They say to me, you are leaving the church. Where would you go after ordination? You are leaving the church here. Where would you go? They challenge me. I
Mm-hmm.
say, I don't know where I would go now. Even I don't know where I would go. Yeah. But the most important thing to me is to be a true priest
Mm-hmm.
of the church. That's the most important thing. You
And
may have
that's
everything. I told them, you have everything. You have the church, the big parish. You have everything. Yeah, to support your life, everything. But to me, you don't have the priesthood. Yeah,
yeah.
that is
That's a
simple. Yeah,
that's a point that is really really important for people to understand, especially for people in the Novus Ordo. That people think that
yeah,
they say, well, you did this, you did that, you left, and like it's something that you
right.
want,
Yeah,
and it's not easy. It's like, no, I'm having to do all these things that are difficult, and I have to be in this position that is, as you say, much less advantageous. Like I could have a really good job, I could have a really good parish, I could have been approved by
yeah.
everybody, but I
Mm,
have to be where the truth
mm,
is, even if it's difficult,
yeah,
even if it's not as fancy, or if I don't get a big church or a big
right.
big
Yeah, yeah.
car or whatever. So yeah, no, definitely
Yeah.
that's
So so yeah. But the
go
good
ahead.
thing, but the good thing now is uh, uh, I know like some of the people they became a Sedevacantist Catholic. Yeah, they they know what happened to the church. Yeah, by reading my blog. Yeah, so some of them from other country. Yeah, they are more and more like become like a certain
Yeah,
about like what has happened to the church and also some of the Vatican II priests here in United States and in my country also they agree. Yeah, they email me. They said I agree. I agree. Which I'm very respect your decision. But I had to say that you keep praying for me, yeah, because I know something wrong, yeah, with the church. I mean Vatican too,
yeah,
I know something wrong, yeah. But the thing I don't have the courage. I don't have the courage to give up, to leave everything behind, to go like on the route on like you. So temporarily I keep like I don't see. I pretend I don't see anything.
Yeah.
So they say to keep keep praying for them. So because they know something wrong with the Vatican II Church. Even from top down in the Vatican, very serious. Something very very serious, something wrong. And they says it cannot be, the Catholic Church cannot be like that. But they said they don't have the courage to give up, to leave. The Vatican II Church, because they don't know where they to go. Something like that. That is a simple thing.
So I'm gonna, in your case, Father, because there is so many people that you probably would want to say something to. I'll give you the choice to say, who do you want to address these words, and what would you say to them? Either to the young people or to the people in Vietnam, or to your, your friends, your clergy friends. What words would you like to leave behind, so to speak, for them?
So okay, so just I want to say to everyone who has a chance to listen and and this conversation. But I want to say and to speak to everyone, especially those who can understand my English. And especially some like Vietnamese people living in the United States. They can understand English. And also the thing I want to share everything behind that. I want to share with you like the importance of the daily prayer. To keep a daily prayer. So because I believe that by daily prayer, my vocation and everything and what I have now, thanks to daily prayer. From my younghood, my childhood, my family prays every day. Because I was grown up in a parish, there was no priest, no mass daily. So the faith is maintained and nourished by personal and family prayer. And the prayer, I mean the Holy Rosary.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very simple but very powerful, and everyone can pray. So just praying the Holy Rosary daily. And now today today is the feast of the Most Holy Rosary. So it's very very good. That's the message. Just pray the Holy Rosary. And also Rosary, as everyone knows that the Rosary is very 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 powerful. To bring about the conversion of people to the true faith. So that's the prayer, the Holy Rosary. Even you don't understand, you are not aware of how important a Rosary is. Just keep praying it. That's the thing. In my when I was a child, I was woke up every day in the early morning to pray the Rosary with my parents. But at that time, as a young boy, I'm very like sometimes I got angry. I just want to sleep. But my parents like keep like wake me up. Force me to pray the Holy Rosary. And I just pray like a few Hail Marys, and I fall into silence, like a nodding and sleeping. And my father turned to me. Wake up, open your eyes. Something. And once I remember, he threw at me a pillow. He threw at me a pillow. Said, "Wake up, open your eyes. Pray." So at that time, as a young boy, for sure, I don't understand the importance. I don't feel the needs of the Holy Rosary of prayer at all. But when later on, when I later on I got to grow older, so I know for sure by the pieties of my parents, their piety, their prayer daily. So it nourishes my faith in everything. Yeah.
Hmm.
So that a thing I want to share to all the audience, so to everyone who had chance to see and to watch this conversation. Try to keep to pray the Holy Rosary daily, and more important, to pray with the people you are living with in the family. Yeah,
Very good
yeah.
piece of advice there. Father, is there anything else you would like to talk about?
Yeah, so I want to share my my life here at the Mount.
Okay.
When after my ordination, in 2019, on the feast of Our Lady of Guadalupe. So after that, I was assigned to the Church of Saint Michael's in Spokane, Washington State. Yeah. So my duty now is almost like a school chaplain, a school chaplain,
Hmm.
like a hearing confession for the school, yeah, and to help with the distribution of Holy Communions, and to do with the PE class with the high school boy and the junior highs, yeah, like yeah. So and I also had to take care of the sick at the four nursing homes in Spokane area, yeah, and some others in their family home, their private homes also, yeah. And outside that, I had a mission to take care, yeah, like once a month to Kalispell, yeah, in Montana, yeah,
Hmm.
like 4 hours, 4.5 hours driving from here, and maybe it's from another sometime mission in Idaho Falls, yeah, like 7 hours and a half driving, yeah. Yeah, so basically, I'm very happy with the life of a priest in here, and the thing is, I have like a abundance of work to do. So, yeah, the other thing, yeah,
Yeah.
and also the other thing, so busy, but also I also have the time for recreation, yeah,
Good.
daily, yeah, and the recreation by playing pool, yeah, playing pool with brother Sebastian's, yeah. So we and my pool skills, it's very it's very improved very fast, yeah. And now I so basically, that's my very humble story, but I'm here currently as an assistant priest at the Mount Saint Michael's here, and we have abundance of work to do here. So, but anyway, I'm very happy and being a priest now, and yeah, that is my humble story, and my future is in God's hand. Yeah, I. I have, but let me keep it confidence,
Yes.
confidential.
And, and we ask all our listeners and the people that are watching to keep us in your prayers, to keep all the priests in your prayers, but also to keep the priests that you mentioned, the priests that are perhaps in the Novus Ordo still, that are struggling to make that
Right, yeah.
decision, that they see something is wrong and they need
Mm,
the prayers of us, the prayers of the people and of us in here too. Well, Father, uh, it's been 1 hour, so we probably should wrap it up in here. But I really appreciate you coming
yeah.
in, and it's a great story. I really love your story. I'm sure that our
Mhm.
Blessed Mother, and as you said in the Holy Rosary, our Blessed Mother had a lot to do with all the graces received. So thank you very much for joining us again.
Okay, thank you, Father. Yeah, thank you, everyone. Yeah, God bless you. Yeah.
And for all of you listening, thank you for listening as well. And this is your host, Father Carlos Cepeda, joined by Father Joseph Pham. You're listening to Back to the Faith in the Catholic Wire. God bless you.
Thank you for listening to the Catholic Wire. If you have found this show helpful, please say a prayer for all our collaborators. Don't forget to subscribe to our channels and share with your friends. For questions and comments, you may contact us at thecatholicwire.org.